Well, hello and welcome to the e-commerce podcast with me, your host, Matt Edmundson. Now, this is a show all about helping you deliver e-commerce. Wow. Yes, it is. And to help us do just that today, we are chatting again with the mesmerizing and talented Valon from Bahamics. We're going to be talking about AI and how it's disrupting the whole world of site traffic. So you're not going to want to miss this one. Is AI still as cool as everybody thought it was a few weeks ago? We just don't know. We're going to get into all of that. But before I do, a warm welcome to you if this is your first time here with us on the show. We just chat about e-commerce and all things to do with how to grow our online businesses. Like you, I am an e-commerce entrepreneur. I have my own online businesses, and so I'm very fascinated by this whole topic. And to help you, we do this show, but of course, we've also got the newsletter, which you can subscribe to on the website at ecommercepodcast.net. Every week, we send out to you the show notes and the links from the show, as well as some other good stuff, which is coming your way. More details soon, so stay tuned. Make sure you subscribe, and I'll let you know more about that as we get closer to it. Now, let's talk about Valon, who previously worked as an AI scientist at Google, which, let's be real, not many of us have done. And he's worked at other research institutes developing sophisticated AI techniques and algorithms, whatever that all means, right? Now, Valon is always looking for innovative methods to use AI to improve the online shopping experience at his company, Bahamics, which is a great company. Do check it out, bahamics.com. Now, it is 18 months since Valon was last on the show. January 2023, we released the episode, Valon, when we were talking again about AI and how it works with abandonment, cart abandonment and all that sort of good stuff. But today, let's carry on that conversation. Welcome back to the show. Good to have you on, man. How are you doing?
Hey, Matt, thanks for having me. Great, doing great. Enjoying the whole huge interest, huge boom in AI since we last spoke. Um, now that I remember it, like January 2023, a pivotal moment in AI for sure.
Yeah.
A lot of great things happened during that time,
Mm-hmm.
and I think that month is something that it's probably going to go down in history as a turning point in terms of like interest in AI. And the primary reason was that AI before used to be like this cool thing, great thing, but
Yeah.
mostly in the back end.
Yeah.
So the normal Joe, the average Joe would never actually see how that works and the impact of it, probably like indirectly, but not like so directly.
Yeah.
So it was a great turning point for sure. And then like the release of ChatGPT and all the different language models, like this has a huge impact to like reach a huge mass of like people to see that actually AI has a huge impact in lives, right? So and this sparked a huge interest all over like different industries pretty much, which is great, right? So we're happy to ride that wave, if you can say so. We saw a huge interest and a lot of expectations,
Yeah.
but yeah, very interesting.
Yeah, it's fascinating, isn't it? I mean, January 2023, that was turning point in AI, I think predominantly because that was when our episode was released. I think we single-handedly changed, the whole nation and industry around AI, but that's okay. If only that was true, right? But it is interesting, the journey that we have come on with AI and how it started off with this huge bang and everybody was talking about it. Everyone still is talking about it. It doesn't seem to have gone anywhere. Now, I know that when we were chatting before we hit the record button, you were like, I hope AI doesn't go the way cryptocurrency goes. What do you mean by that? Because I think this is a really interesting idea.
A lot of hypes took place in the past, right? We had like the metaverse, which didn't really last that long, which is great.
Mm-hmm.
We had a lot of like other hypes in the past, like remember, I was like 2015, 2016, the chatbot era, where
Yeah.
everyone was like fascinated with chatbots, but they couldn't actually deliver because the AI was not there yet. So it literally
Yeah.
took us like almost 10 years
Yeah.
in research and development to be able to come to a stage where chatbots can actually formulate good questions or can formulate cohesive questions. They are still not at the level that most people expect to be,
Yeah.
but they are far more superior. So literally, in a nutshell, the quality of chatbots that we have right now is the quality that clients expected back in 2015 and 16.
Yeah.
Right. So it took us a long time, and it took us to actually perform a miracle in terms of AI to be able to pull something off, so that we can gain the interest from the customer and the industry back to where we are. So what I mean by that is that whenever there is a hype, it's usually super hyped, and then the expectations are risen. But then very soon the industry starts to realize that actually the expectations are not met,
Yeah.
and the interest starts to fade away. Right. I don't expect that AI hype is going to land where crypto and blockchain landed, because when it comes to AI, there is a huge impact all over the world in different industries. The impact is clear, it's measurable,
Yeah.
and it's not just transactional. So it's not gonna, it's not gonna land where it used to be before 2023, but it's gonna go in waves, right? And these waves are going to be directly, pushed by innovations and new tech that's going to come out every single day, right? So we see this, like, even if you, for example, one interesting thing is that if you, for example, if you just go to Google Trends and search like AI, you'll be able to see this trend. And there were like some kind of like waves, and then there was some increase in these waves, and these particular increases on the trend of users searching for that, they came particularly because something was released, something new was released, a new
Right.
model or a new tech or a new company or something, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the great part is that the whole investment community, VCs, they're like putting a lot of money into development, which is great. It didn't used to be like this at this scale before pandemic. So this interest is going to lead to new innovations, which hopefully is going to like push to newer and newer applications
Yeah.
in different industries, like we're doing it here with Bahamics in e-commerce.
So what sort of new innovations do you see on the horizon? I mean, the time of recording, it's July 24. Where do you see it going the next sort of, I don't know, 6 to 12 months? Can we predict that far in the future where AI is concerned, or is it more we're struggling to predict the next 6 to 12 minutes, let alone the next 6 to 12 months?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, like statistically, and based on where the needs are, based on where the constraints are, it's definitely going to be focused on building language models with higher accuracy. This is where the focus is right now.
Mm-hmm.
And not only that, but also building language models that can, like spit out words faster than usual,
Yeah.
and that are more like cost effective. This is going to be a huge demand. The reason why is this the case is that the existing state of training and building language models, running them on cloud is highly ineffective. It's not cost effective. It's not financial. It doesn't make financial sense in the long run
Right.
if there are no innovations to improve that.
Yeah.
Right. To put into perspective, for example, like just a few months ago, you needed like an NVIDIA GPU, which costs like $2,000 on average, like bare minimum, to run a language model that can process a prompt within, like a minute. That's a scale, and this
Right.
scale is literally the scale is like unaffordable. Like think
Yeah.
about like
Yeah.
ChatGPT, how many prompts do they handle per day? Like millions of prompts.
Yeah.
So the majority of these language model companies, they're actually losing money,
Mm-hmm.
by being able to process and like handle all these requests, because the status, the state of the language models and the hardware is not optimized yet. So in the next few months, probably a year or even 2 years, the whole focus is going to be on optimizing these, making these models more efficient, so that we can have these for the long run.
Right.
Otherwise, this is not going to make sense financially.
Right. That's really interesting. I've not heard of that side. I've not thought about the costs of actually me typing something into ChatGPT. and ChatGPT giving me the answer. I've not thought about how much it costs them, especially because
Very expensive, Matt.
yeah,
Very expensive. Very expensive.
which is intriguing, isn't it? So, I mean, Bahamics is an AI company. You're using AI technology. You worked with Google and other companies. You know about AI. You've incorporated this into your own company. So, how have you dealt with this technology barrier yourself? Then, if the cost to entry is significantly high, how have you guys dealt with that?
Yeah, so there were like a few measures. We as a company, we're not highly focused on language models, um, and the primary reason is that language models they still lack in reasoning and causal reasoning,
Mm,
right? Language models are also very hard to explain how they came up with a specific answer. Um, but at the end of the day, you cannot trust language model to come up with a calculation or estimation or a prediction about something and ask language models to provide you a budget strategy or something. This is
right.
something that mid-enterprise clients, but also other clients as well, they're not going to really trust, you know. So because of this effects of hallucination and a lot of other things, language models are not at that point yet.
Mm,
Instead, we use like deep learning models that we can implement the causal reasoning that we can trace back how this prediction, how this result came to be,
right.
and be able to see if that makes sense or not, because that's what also clients want to see. If you, for example, suggest a client that you should invest this much money into this strategy for marketing,
Yeah.
and you're going to get this much ROI,
Yeah.
they want to actually see the traceability of that reasoning, which is something it's almost impossible in language models today.
Right.
So this is first, but still, this process is still very like it's not cost effective. It's still very expensive and still needs to be scaled. And for that reason, we build our own like data centers.
Right.
We've acquired a lot of like GPUs, graphic cards. We build our own data centers from the beginning on, which is highly important for every AI company out there. I understand that the GPUs they get older and older with time, right? And like
Mm,
like every 18 months, like the capacity doubles based on Moore's law,
mm,
but still in the short term, even in that short term, in that 18 months period, the ROI is clear on building your own even mini server
yeah.
versus using cloud, because cloud is highly expensive, especially for companies that are just starting out or even they want to scale. So
Mm,
it's a combination of both, pretty much.
wow. Wow. Yeah. It's interesting. I mean, you've how you've done it and how you've approached it. Um, and I'm curious, what have you discovered then? You've been working with AI. You know more than the average bloke on the street, Valon, about this whole thing. What have you discovered about AI over the last, well, since we last spoke, that's maybe a bit surprising, that's really helped, or that's making some big changes in e-commerce?
Yes. So there is a growing interest from e-commerce brands that they see the capabilities of AI, and for that reason, they want more automations.
Mm,
So in a nutshell, AI is primarily here to assist us, help us on things and tasks that we've performed manually, that we've spent a lot of time that we should have spent a lot of time,
yeah.
right? It's not here to replace us completely. It's here to help us transition to things that we as humans are capable of doing, like reasoning, creativity, and so many other things,
Mm,
right? And leave these manual, redundant, repetitive tasks to AI,
yeah.
right? And for that specific reason, AI is great for these cases. And brands they want to see automations. They want to see that a lot of their day-to-day redundant, repetitive tasks are automated. And this can go from like reducing car abandonment to optimizing their organic traffic, to optimizing their SEO, to optimizing social media, to optimizing the organic traffic in different, like, let's say TikTok or Instagram or whatever, right? So they, the majority of the brands, they do a lot of like repetitive manual tasks that are daily, that can be automated. So this is the common interest and the common trend that we see these days in e-commerce. And AI is perfect in these cases. Why? Because if you want to automate something, you need to understand that task. You need to understand how things come to be, which is what AI literally does, right?
Yeah.
AI has this capability of predicting things. When you have a high accuracy of predicting an outcome, you can use the same process to also explain how did that outcome come to be. What we already discussed with that language model, they still don't have this reasoning capability. And based on that, you can run automations. So we have one of the main focus for us in the last few months was on being able to increase organic traffic with automations running on AI. Why organic traffic? Well, there are a few things that changed since pandemic. First of all, before pandemic, money used to be cheap, a low interest rate. Ads used to be cheap.
Yeah.
So the common strategy before was like, you get more money, you throw this money into ads, and you're going to grow, bring more traffic.
Yeah.
Simple strategy, clear strategy here. But things have changed, right? You had all of these like privacy updates from Apple. Money is not as cheap as it used to be, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Right? And
Miss
we can
those
see
days.
this not only in the US, but all over the world, pretty much. So that strategy of just like getting more money, raising more money, getting loans or whatever to throw into ads because ads are cheap, it's not really working. It's not as scalable as it used to be. On the other hand, the number of users on different social media and different, like, let's say on Google searches or TikTok is skyrocketing.
Yeah.
So there is a distribution of focus. And from this, because of all these different changes, there is also a clear change in the trend on how brands bring traffic now. They are not relying completely on bringing traffic through ads. They're trying to distribute this. They're trying to bring more traffic through different other channels, potentially organic. Because the organic traffic is way more valuable in a one-to-one basis than with paid or other different channels.
Yeah.
Because the intent is clear. So the question now is how can we establish ourselves? Is there a way to understand a strategy? Because of paid marketing used to have such a huge impact, Matt. There are so many platforms out there that help you, like with paid and help you optimize things and get ROI and build strategies and AI and this and that. But in terms of organic, it's way more complicated. Because you have, for example, for the majority of the brands we work with, which are primarily mid-enterprise, or maybe let's kind of like step back and let's simplify things, right? If you have a small store, you're just getting started, the fastest way to bring traffic are ads, no doubt about it, right? So we have clients that are like on Shopify, few hundred thousand traffic. The majority of the traffic is paid. But then as you start to move towards a mid-market, then enterprise, this distribution of traffic changes.
Yeah.
So the organic traffic, which is primarily coming from Google search results, starts to take more and more portion of the traffic.
Yeah.
Right. So in general, for example, based on the numbers that we have, 35% of the traffic is organic for mid-enterprise, the clients that we have. For smaller stores, is like 5%, 10%.
Yeah.
Max. But this traffic accounts for like 55% of the revenue. That's how much the impact is.
Yeah.
And because of that, there is a huge interest. It's very important to establish your brand as you move towards mid-enterprise market. Because relying completely on ads, especially these days, it's not cost effective. It's going to be very hard to break even. It's going to be
Yeah.
very hard to scale pretty much.
Yeah. No, it is. I've seen. It's interesting hearing you talk about this because it's one of the things that I've noticed. A lot more people now are looking at SEO again. Everything comes in cycles, isn't it? SEO was really trendy a few years ago, and then it sort of stopped being trendy because ads became easier. And now it seems like SEO has become the big thing again. How do we grow our organic traffic? And I'm intrigued by this topic, Val, and I'm actually quite pleased to talk about it because recently, Google have made changes, as best as I understand it, to the search algorithm where they're trying to sort of push out websites that are trying to use AI in many ways to bump up their organic rankings, right? So it's almost like Google have caught on to this idea that people are trying to do this now. Um, so on one hand, I hear what you're saying. AI can be used to help SEO. On the other hand, I hear comments like Google's, penalizing. Maybe penalizing is the wrong word, but they're certainly cutting off sites which are heavily, not heavenly, no, but heavily sort of AI influenced. How do you deal with that?
Yeah, that's a very good question. So Google usually or primarily penalizes what we've seen from the data. They primarily penalize um, different strategies that are not that ethical.
Hmm.
Like, for example, link insertions or automatic link insertions, you know, or different type of ways that try to find loopholes in the process
Right.
to scale the SEO, like in a fast, very scalable way, right? What we're saying here is that the state of the market right now, as it is, trying to build and establish yourself out there by building guest posts, for example, which is a common process. It's very straightforward process, right? There is nothing wrong with it,
Mm.
right? Um, in this way, by not really knowing with which people you should partner up to write guest posts or blog posts or other things, and doing this, which can take time. But on the other hand, if you do it wrong, if you do it with the wrong type of people, just because the Google AI algorithm um, can penalize these cases and actually damage your position instead of helping you, we
Yeah.
don't believe that's the right way, right? We do believe that, like with the ads, where there were a lot of platforms that help you to optimize the ads, optimize the budget, understand who are the target users. The same approach can be taken, and we're taking for the organic traffic for SEO in this specific case, right? So if you want to write a guest post, for example, relevancy, or in SEO in general, relevance is very important.
Yeah.
It's the most important factor out there. But you don't really have data or platforms that offer you data about relevancy. How is that possible? We still rely on cases, on data that are based on domain authority, for example.
Right.
A thing that, based on the data that we see, has almost no impact,
Oh wow.
pretty much.
Okay, that's good news.
So relevance, Matt, as an information, is the highest impactful factor out there
Mm.
in SEO. And there is nothing wrong about measuring it and understanding how relevance has an impact on your rankings, right? Because the relevance can be measured with even models that Google publish themselves, open
Right.
source, right? You have the BERT, for example, that you can use to measure relevance and being able to, like see how relevant is a content that you're writing for your site with a keyword that you want to rank. What's wrong with it, right? There is literally nothing wrong, pretty much. So take into account that relevance has the highest impact, and how often you publish things, and how often other people talk about you, which means that they build backlinks, or
Yeah.
they build, like links that go to your site. These two factors have the highest impact right now, and we see this with data. But still, this is like a high level overview, because there are so many other things that these two factors can be broken down. It's not just like the relevance of your content with a keyword, but it's also how relevant is this company that is talking about you.
Yeah.
It cannot be your competitor, which means it cannot be highly relevant, but also it cannot be a company that has nothing to do with your domain or industry or whatever. So in a nutshell, based on the data that we see, is that the difference is very slight, because if you take into account like the relevance from 0 to 100, the difference can be like 10 points or something, 10 percentage points. It's not that high, but we as humans were unable to actually, without measuring relevance, come up with a relevance that has that precision. So taking all these different things into account, we've established and we were able to measure relevance, taking into account to be able to explain the rankings, to be able to understand what has an impact, what kind of content should you write. And by content, I mean not like just using language models to produce the content. We've tested this and we've tried to ask different language models to generate or rewrite the content, Matt. And we measure the relevance with a specific keyword or a specific title or whatever. And we've seen that whenever you were generating something or rewriting that thing, the relevance was becoming less and less and less.
Right.
So what this means is that the most important factors that is out there in SEO relevance is not really being taken into account by a lot of content writing tools out there. They're just writing it and trying to put all the different keywords and trying to stuff it with keywords and trying to optimize. Or maybe even the best case scenario, they're trying to see what the top competitors on the first page are doing, what keywords they have. But guess what? Based on our data that we have, just because a domain is ranking first doesn't mean that they are perfect. Mm-hmm. Just because a domain has, let's say, some backlinks doesn't mean that these backlinks are state of the art. The idea is being able to actually understand how the relevance has an impact.
Yeah.
How do you write content that are relevant? And relevance is here to stay, because relevance is a metric that is highly scalable to be calculated when it comes to the engineering part. Domain authority is way more complex than actually relevance, and relevance actually gives a more semantic meaning to your content and the keyword. It's not just like, is your keyword in your content, but it's more like how related that content is and being able to measure it. So these are like few things that we've actually seen. And now we're able to not only tell you that this content that you're writing is not that relevant with the keyword you're trying to rank, but also use all this information to also understand where to publish that content. If you, for example, if somebody wants to write about you, you can actually simulate and predict if that's going to help you in the ranking or not, even before you publish an article somewhere. That's how impactful the process is. So far, it used to be like they tried to write as many guest posts as possible.
Yeah.
Some were helping you, some were backfiring, but that's pretty much it. It was completely blurred. The AI now is actually building a clear path. And this clear path, you can take actions like a GPS where, let's say you want to write 10 guest posts. All you have to do is literally just get a list of domains where you want to publish these guest posts, and you'll be able to predict the impact in terms of ranking that these individual guest posts will have. So if you see that some are bad, why would you publish there?
Yeah.
Go with somewhere else,
Yeah.
So that's what I'm kind of like talking about here. We're talking about like being able to have a GPS and navigation when it comes to building organic traffic in the right way, right? It's not about hacking the system or finding loopholes in the Google algorithm in terms of like inserting links where they should not be. And we have seen this. For example, we see cases if an article or a backlink or a guest post talks about you, but then at the same time they talk also for another 10 companies, that's not as good as just talking about you.
Mm-hmm.
And it's clear. So Google is literally penalizing all of these different unethical ways of building backlinks. And yes, based the data that we have, backlinks have a huge impact still.
Mm-hmm.
And it makes sense because you are more popular when other sites talk about you, which is also like for us in general. So that makes sense.
Yeah, totally. So it's not like AI is revolutionizing the principles of SEO. So the principles are still the same: good quality content, good backlinks, relevancy, and so on and so forth. What you're saying, where I think AI has struggled is, well, I guess where everyone has used it in, like people like me, as you go to Chat GPT or Claude or whatever your model of choice is, and say, write me a blog post on, I don't know, pens, and so it goes away and it writes you an SEO optimized, what it thinks is an SEO optimized article on pens, which you're then going to edit, change, and publish. What you're saying, as best as I understand it, actually is that's the worst way to use AI where SEO is concerned. Much better is to think much more big picture, much more strategically, much more, let's think about relevance and let's look not just at the micro here, let's look at the macro. How is that going to work in the bigger picture, if I've understood it?
Yes, exactly. So if you just ask, so we've from our end, we've identified around like 1,000 different factors, relevance, backlink factors, on-page technical, or different things that are really important to be measured and take into account if you want to build a backlink, or if you want to write a content, or if you want to optimize something when it comes to SEO.
Mm-hmm.
And what we have seen is that the margin of you taking an action that can help you versus can damage you is pretty close, right? We're talking about like few percentage points in relevance that can help you in ranking higher versus damage you,
Yeah.
right? And because of that language models, they don't have this information. They don't have these 1,000 different factors that need to be taken into account when you write this article or this content. They, in the majority of the cases, we have an accuracy. So it's like 30% accuracy in terms of writing a good article that meets all these different criteria that would help you to rank higher. We have seen that it doesn't really work.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason why is that when you write a content, for example, based on the results that we have, is that content, like it cannot be like highly relevant to your homepage, for example, because then you're kind of like damaging your homepage, which is the most important part of your site, right?
Yeah.
But it also cannot be that dissimilar, or it cannot have a low relevance when it comes to the homepage. So where is it like that? What's the sweet spot here? And language models, they don't have this information. They don't have these 1,000 different factors to take into account. And it's not only that, but it's like, for example, if you build a guest post from a different domain, and they are linking to you, not only the article that is talking about you has an impact, but even the homepage where that article is coming from, and the relevance of that homepage to your homepage and to your article and to your keyword has a huge impact. That's how deep it is. Language models, they don't have this information. So what does this mean? Because relevance is a factor that measures the relevancy between different article, different content, and it is the most impactful factor out there in SEO that you cannot even measure anywhere else, that we had to go and build a tool to measure it and being able to offer this to our clients. This means that a backlink that used to be good a few months ago, or a guest post that used to be good a few months ago, it doesn't mean that it's going to stay with that quality forever. Because relevance is a measure of text content. And as soon as, let's say, the homepage of the backlink changes, not the article, but the homepage, this also means that the relevancy can decrease, which also means that the backlink quality can decrease. So SEO, as a channel to bring organic traffic, it's not a static system. It's not a static process. You build one good backlink with high domain authority, it's going to be forever like this. No, because the Google algorithms change and they try to optimize all the time. And also all the sites change. And because relevance is the highest impactful factor out there, relevance can also change when somebody changes the content, or you change your homepage, or you move things and you change stuff. So whenever you change something, the relevance is gonna change, which it can have a huge impact on your ranking. Does it make sense, Matt? Or
Yeah, it does. It totally makes sense, and I'm really intrigued to see where this all goes, Valon, because I do see that organic traffic is going to become more and more of a big deal again. And it's an obvious thing with the way that ads have now gone. I see social traffic becoming more and more of a big deal, being discovered on social channels, because hashtags don't really work. So how do people find me on social media? How do I grow those channels? This is all organic traffic, isn't it? And using AI to give us a competitive advantage on that, and to help us do that right and well in a way that's going to work with those platforms, as opposed to try and find a cheat code backdoor in for a little while. I think is exciting. I think it's one of those things that I'm really intrigued to see how it develops, because I don't see many people talking about it. I see a lot of platforms talking about the micro. I don't see many people talking about the macro and how it all sort of fits together. So I think that's interesting. I think it'd be a bit of a game changer. So yeah, it makes total sense, and I'm intrigued to see how this works with you guys as well. How Bahamics sort of handles all of this going forward. I'm utterly intrigued.
it's a very interesting. It's a very interesting. It's a very interesting space because, as you said, I can definitely confirm, social, which is a channel for organic traffic besides SEO, um, it's growing super fast, right? And when we talk about like automations that we talked earlier before, right? You don't need to. Why would you want to be an expert in something that changes all the time? Right? Because a lot of people talk about like the Google recipe, which is something that is a very interesting talk when I hear about a lot of SEO people talk about the Google recipe. And like there were a few leaks from Google about what kind of factors they use, and they were talking like, we didn't see the recipe. What's the recipe? There is no recipe. That's a problem. There is no recipe. Even Google, they don't know their own recipe.
Mm.
Why? Because the time when engineers at Google and also other companies used to sit down on their computers and write a recipe, an algorithm manually themselves to optimize something is long gone.
Yeah.
The PageRank algorithm was a recipe because you could trace, you could understand the whole in and outs. It was a descriptive algorithm. The current algorithms that Google uses, and the whole, probably not the probably but the whole world uses, like, these are probabilistic algorithms. There is no recipe there. And the way you train these algorithms to rank something, it's the same way that you train a language model to spit out text. You get a lot of different tests. You do a lot of different tests. You see how a site is performing, if it's on the first position versus second position. So Google tries to optimize the click-through rates on the first position, on the first page and the second page and third page, right? And they have these large algorithms that try to optimize the click-through rate, the chances that a user, when they land on Google, they're going to click something. That's what they're trying to optimize.
Yeah.
So the recipe here, it's a large model that is constantly learning and changing and adapting things. The relevance is the key component, which is a huge difference from before, where domain authority used to be a key component. But still, these algorithms are trying to optimize things and improve things all the time, and they are changing all the time.
Yeah.
So there is no recipe. If you still try to go after the recipe, you will never find the recipe because there is no recipe.
Yeah.
We don't have a recipe. We don't have a recipe at Bahamics on how we build the algorithms because we write deep learning algorithms, right? We create all these different architectures and we play with the architectures. But even if Google gives you the architecture of the rankings, what can you make out of it? Nothing. You know, it's a clear concept, right? So there is no recipe because everything is embedded on these large models that try to optimize click-through rate of users on the pages. That's pretty much it. If you have a good content, if the user clicks you and you're on the second position and they convert or take an action or they spend enough time on your site, Google is going to take this information to account. It's going to give you a good score that, well, you were able to handle this user that I brought to you, and the user is happy because they're coming back to Google. That's how it works. It's a win-win for both. You write great content, you optimize your page, users stay more time, they convert, maybe they buy something, and you and Google share the split, the revenue, right? That's how simple it is. But there is no recipe.
Yeah.
So why do you have to, for example, learn things that are changing constantly and that they don't actually have value? Where these things can actually be automated. And there are so many of these instances and cases out there in the market, not only within e-commerce, Matt, but all over different industries that we are trying redundant things, repetitive things that we should not do instead of focusing on creative stuff, creative thinking ways to build new things, to come up with new challenges. We are kind of like, I'm not saying wasting, but like spending our time on these things that they don't really have a huge impact in the long term, but they are more repetitive, if that makes sense. And I do believe that AI is going to really automate a lot of these cases.
That's great.
And I don't want to say like, like replace jobs, but I'm saying like give you actually more time to think about things that have a higher impact in terms of like creativity and less about redundancy. So.
Fantastic. Well, Valon, so many questions in my head, but I'm aware of time. It's been a fascinating, as always, Valon, a fascinating conversation about the industry and where it's all going. And I love that. When you were saying there is no recipe, in my head, all I could hear was the kid from, I don't know if you ever saw the movie The Matrix, where he goes, "There is no spoon." That's there is no spoon, and so that's what I heard. Maybe showing my age now. If people want to reach out to you, if they want to find out more about what's going on with you, find out more about how maybe they can, how you can help them with their SEO with Bahamics and stuff, how do they do that? What's the best way?
They can reach out to me directly on LinkedIn, or they can just reach out. You can just go to bahamics.com and reach out from there. So 2 ways, 2 different channels. Happy to talk, happy to discuss, happy to help. We do believe that a lot of things within e-commerce are going to be fully automated, or maybe 90% automated. Because we have seen this case, Matt, in a lot of different industries. I'm bringing this example for the end. Like back in the 70s, stock trading used to be completely manual, over the phone, everything else, right? Like we do SEO and a lot of other things right now manually. And there were a few people who tried to, start to build algorithms because the first computers came out. And here was the biggest issue. They didn't have data to train these algorithms or build these algorithms because there were no CSV files and there were no data. So they literally had to go to libraries and read the books from historical price data and get these prices manually and write on these kind of like disks that they used to have and build these algorithms. But they were successful because there were no algorithms back there. And they started making a lot of money and change the industry. Now, very few people do manual stock trading over the phone and stuff. That job is dead. If somebody does stock trading for a company or something, they're probably just managing computers, doing the algorithms at a high frequency rate. And you cannot really compete with these algorithms. in my opinion, this is how a lot of things are going to change in the future for good. When we started working on this, on trying to understand how to optimize and bring more traffic from SEO, we had the same issue, Matt. We couldn't find data about relevancy. We couldn't find quality data about backlinks. We couldn't find quality data about literally almost nothing. So we had to go and collect all the relevancy and all the different factors ourselves manually and build a system to collect this data at scale, because we didn't have that. So I'm comparing these two cases as examples on how the stock trading used to be versus how the SEO is right now, and where the SEO can be in the future. It's gonna be automated at a high level, pretty much.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, I'm looking forward to seeing where it goes. I am looking forward to seeing where it goes, and in stock trading as well. I'm still looking forward to finding the program that can, just do it all for me and make more money. But but no, it's really fascinating, Valon. Thank you for coming on the show. Before we go, right, we do this. I mentioned to you this question for Matt, where you ask me a question and I answer it on my social media channels. So what's your question for me?
Very good question, Matt. What do you think about the what do you think are going to be what do you think it's going to be an interesting trend in e-commerce in the future?
Okay. An interesting trend.
Maybe let's rephrase it. How is the online shopping experience going to look like in the future?
Okay.
Because it hasn't changed that much in the last 20 years.
So what's it going to change? No, that's a very good question. So what does the online shopping look like into the future? If you want to know how I'm going to answer that question, check out social media. Just follow me on social media and you'll find at some point I will put up a little reel or short form video answering that question. But I have some really interesting answers to that, especially after a recent visit to the States. But I'll go more into that on social media. Valon, listen, thank you for coming on to the show, man. Really appreciate you coming on and just sharing your whole insight into AI. It's always good to talk to knowledgeable people. And you are very knowledgeable, sir, in this whole area. So thanks for coming on. We will, of course, link to Valon and everything, his LinkedIn and his company, Bahamics.com, in the show notes. But Valon, that's it from me. Thank you, man. I really appreciate you being on.
Hey, Matt. Thanks for having me. It's always a pleasure.
Always a pleasure indeed. And no doubt he'll be on the show again soon in about 18 months. So make sure you follow the e-commerce podcast wherever you get your podcasts from, because you're going to want to hear that episode as well as all the other ones we've got lined up. And in case no one has told you yet today, dear listener, you are awesome. Yes, you are. Created awesome. It's just a burden you have got to bear. Valon's got to bear it. I've got to bear it. You've got to bear it as well. Now, the e-commerce podcast is produced by Pod Junction. You can find our entire archive of episodes on your favorite podcast app. The team that makes this show possible is the wonderful Sadaf Bainon and the latest one, Jonah Prisk. Oh, yes, our theme song is written by Josh Edmundson. And as I mentioned, if you'd like to read the transcript, the show notes, all that sort of good stuff, just head over to the website, ecommercepodcast.net. But that's it from me. That's it from Valon. Thank you so much for joining us. Have a fantastic week wherever you are in the world. I'll see you next time.